The Grand Assembly was dead. Its broken pieces drifted in orbit, a monument to humanity's rage. The surviving council representatives had been brought aboard the Eternal Dawn in chains. They stood now in the main hall, surrounded by human soldiers. Their faces showed fear, anger, and disbelief. Admiral Choi Junho walked slowly before them. He was old and tired, and the battle had aged him even more. But his eyes were sharp as he looked at each council member. 3,000 years ago, you decided humanity was too dangerous to exist, he said quietly. You burned our world. You killed 7 billion people. You thought you had erased us from history. A Scythe representative tried to speak. We did what we thought was necessary for galactic peace. Your species was too aggressive to— Silence, Admiral Choi said, his voice like ice. The Scythe closed his mouth. You will speak when I allow it. Captain Dejin stood nearby watching. Part of him wanted to see these aliens suffer as Earth had suffered, but another part remembered Ambassador Tak, who had died trying to make peace. Remembered Yoon Hana, who had sacrificed herself not for revenge but for justice. Dr. Kang entered the hall carrying a data storage device. Admiral, I've finished analyzing the files we recovered from the Grand Assembly. You need to see this. She activated a holographic display. Records appeared, thousands of them dating back millennia. Each record showed a different species. Each species marked as terminated or population reduced. The Council has been doing this for over 5,000 years, Kang explained, her voice shaking with emotion. Any species they considered a potential threat was eliminated. Some were destroyed completely like Earth. Others were attacked until only small populations remained, too weak to ever become powerful. Humanity wasn't the first. We weren't even close to the first. The council representatives looked at each other nervously. Their secret was revealed. Admiral Choi studied the records for a long time. How many species? He asked quietly. 243 that we can confirm, Kang replied. There may be more that weren't documented. Silence filled the hall. Even the human soldiers looked shocked. This wasn't just genocide against humanity. This was systematic elimination of any potential competition, carried out over thousands of years. Kwon Youngji stepped forward. Admiral, I have something else to report. When we studied the voting records from Earth's destruction, we found that 3 races voted against it. The Luminar, the Deepborn, and the Weave. They opposed the genocide. One of the captured council members spoke up. It was a Luminar, their crystalline body reflecting the harsh lights. We begged the other races not to destroy Earth. We argued for containment, for diplomacy, for anything except total destruction. But we were outvoted 9-3. The law required we support the majority decision. But we never wanted this. A Deepborn representative, in their water-filled containment suit, added quietly, we have opposed the Council's elimination policy for centuries. But we were minority voices, ignored and dismissed. Admiral Choi looked at these 3 representatives differently. You tried to save us? We tried, the Luminar said. We failed, and we have carried that guilt for 3,000 years. This changed things. Captain Dejin felt it. They weren't fighting 12 evil species. They were fighting a system where 9 species had dominated the other 3, using fear and violence to maintain control. But not everyone saw it that way. Vice Admiral Shin Bora, though relieved of her command, still had supporters. They wanted total revenge. They wanted every council species destroyed, just as Earth had been destroyed. Shin herself argued this point loudly. They all benefited from Earth's destruction. They all lived on worlds built with resources that should have been ours. They're all guilty! No, Admiral Choi said firmly. We're not them. We won't become what we hate. Then what was the point? Shin shouted. Why did we fight? Why did 70 million humans die in that battle? For nothing? For justice, Dejin said, speaking up for the first time. Not revenge, justice, there's a difference. The argument went on for hours. Finally, Admiral Choi made his decision. The 9 council races that had voted to destroy Earth would face consequences. They would provide resources and technology to help rebuild Earth. They would teach humans everything they knew about advanced sciences. They would work under human supervision for the next century, helping restore what they had destroyed. But they would not be exterminated. Humanity would not stoop to genocide. The 3 races that had opposed Earth's destruction, the Luminar, Deepborn, and Weave, would be treated as allies. They would help form a new government, one based on equality rather than domination. Not everyone agreed with this decision. Shin and her supporters were furious. Some even talked about mutiny, but most humans, exhausted by war and loss, accepted it. They wanted to rebuild, not continue fighting. Park Soon-ho, the engineer, immediately began working with council scientists to accelerate Earth's restoration. Using combined human and alien technology, they developed atmospheric processors that could speed up the planet's healing dramatically. Earth could be habitable in 20 years instead of a century, Soon-ho reported excitedly to Admiral Choi. We can go home. Really go home. Dr. Song, still exhausted from treating wounded, established medical stations for both humans and aliens injured in the battle. Healing has to start somewhere, she said when someone questioned why she would help council soldiers. Might as well start with medicine. Commander Nam Hyejin struggled more than others. She was a soldier, bred for combat. Peace felt wrong to her, uncomfortable. But she threw herself into organizing security forces for the new government. If she couldn't fight council forces, she would protect humanity from any future threats. Colonel Ryu helped her, though he understood her struggle. War defined us for 3,000 years, he told her. Learning to live without it will be hard, but we have to try. 6 months after the battle, a memorial service was held. Every human who had died was honored. Names were read aloud for 3 days straight. Yoon Hana's name brought tears to many eyes. Baek Min-ho's sacrifice was remembered with full military honors. Ambassador Tak was honored not as a failure, but as someone who had tried to find a better way. Captain Daejin spoke at the memorial for his crew members who had died. They gave their lives so humanity could have a future, he said. Not just survival, but a real future. A chance to rebuild. A chance to go home. We honor them by making that future real. Dr. Kang released Earth's cultural archives to the entire galaxy. Music, art, literature, history. Everything that made humanity human was shared freely. They tried to erase us, she said. We're making sure that can never happen again. Let everyone know who we were, who we are, and what we survived. Admiral Choi retired shortly after. He was tired, ready to rest. At his retirement ceremony, he gave one final speech. We were refugees for 3,000 years. We survived when we should have died. We adapted when we should have broken. And when the time came, we fought back when everyone thought we were gone forever. But victory isn't about destroying our enemies. It's about becoming something better than they were. It's about building a future worth the sacrifices made to reach it. The first human ships returned to Earth orbit 2 years later. Captain Daejin commanded the Eternal Dawn on this journey, as he had commanded it through the war. When Earth appeared on the viewing screens, everyone aboard stopped what they were doing to look. The planet was still scarred, still damaged in places, but life was returning. Green spread across the continents. Blue filled the oceans. White clouds drifted peacefully. Daejin felt tears running down his face. He didn't try to wipe them away. Prepare landing shuttles, he ordered. It's time to go home. The first humans to set foot on Earth in 3,000 years were children. Young ones born on the colony ships, who had never known anything except metal walls and recycled air. They stepped onto grass for the first time, felt natural wind, looked up at a real sky. One little girl picked up a handful of soil and laughed with pure joy. That simple laugh made everything worth it. Over the next decades, humanity rebuilt. Cities rose again, but different from before. They learned from their mistakes, building in harmony with nature instead of conquering it. The 9 council races that had destroyed Earth worked alongside humans, their attitudes slowly changing from resentment to respect. The Luminar, Deepborn, and Weave became humanity's closest allies. Together, they reformed the Galactic Council into something new, not a tool for domination, but a true coalition of equals. 100 years after the battle, a memorial was built on Earth. It stood where the United Nations building had once been, before the bombardment. The memorial listed every human who had died in the initial attack, and every human who had died in the war that followed. The inscription at the base read simply, "They tried to erase us. We refused to be forgotten. We returned. We rebuilt. We remembered." Former Captain Han Daejin, now very old, attended the memorial's dedication ceremony. He stood with Dr. Kang Mirai, Park Soon-ho, Commander Nam Hyejin, and other survivors of the war. They were fewer now. Time took its toll. A reporter asked Daejin what he felt looking at the memorial. He thought for a long moment before answering. Pride, he said finally, and sadness. The human fleet emerged from quantum displacement directly above the Grand Assembly. For a moment there was perfect silence. The massive space station hung in orbit like a small moon, surrounded by hundreds of Council warships. Beyond it, the capital world glowed blue and green, peaceful and beautiful. Then every alarm in Council space began screaming. The Council fleet had been caught completely off guard. They had expected attacks on the edges of their territory, not here, not at their most sacred place. Ships scrambled to respond, but they were disorganized, confused. The humans had brought everything they had. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. This was total commitment. Admiral Choi's voice came through every human communication channel. All ships engage at will. This is for Earth, this is for our dead. Make every shot count. The battle began. Yoon Hana sat in her fighter, surrounded by her squadron. Her ship was loaded with enough explosives to destroy a small station. Her mission was simple: fly through the chaos, reach the Grand Assembly's main shield generator, and ram into it. The explosion would bring down the shields, letting the fleet concentrate fire on the station itself. She would not survive. She knew that, had accepted it. Ghost Squadron, launch, she ordered, her voice steady. 40 fighters screamed out of the Eternal Dawn's flight bay, immediately diving into battle. Council interceptors rose to meet them. The space between the fleet and the Grand Assembly became filled with weapons fire, explosions, and dying ships. Hana flew like she had never flown before. She spun between incoming fire, her reflexes pushed to their absolute limit. Around her, human fighters exploded as Council weapons found their targets. She heard pilots screaming on the communication channels, calling for help, saying goodbye. Stay focused, she shouted. Keep pushing forward. A Council interceptor locked onto her. She pulled hard on her controls, spinning her fighter in a way that should have been impossible. The Council pilot couldn't match her turn and flew past. Hana fired, destroying it, but her squadron was dying. Of 40 fighters that had launched, only 20 remained. Then 15. Then 10. On the Eternal Dawn, Captain Daejin coordinated the fleet's movements. He watched the tactical display, seeing red markers appear and disappear as ships on both sides were destroyed. The humans were outnumbered badly. For every Council ship they destroyed, they lost 2 of their own. We can't keep this up, his tactical officer reported. We're taking too many casualties. We don't have to keep it up, Daejin replied. We just have to last long enough for Hana to reach the shield generator. Admiral Choi stood beside him, his old face grim. Concentrate all fire on the Council's command carrier. If we can take it down, their fleet coordination will collapse. The human ships focused their weapons on one massive Council warship. Plasma cannons, missiles, and railguns all fired at once. The Council carrier's shields held at first, glowing bright from the impacts. But slowly, inevitably, they began to fail. Inside the Grand Assembly, the Council representatives were evacuating. They ran through corridors, desperate to reach escape pods. They had never expected this. Humanity was supposed to be extinct. This attack should have been impossible. But outside the station, human fighters were getting closer. Hana had only 5 wingmen left. The others were all dead. She could see the shield generator now, a massive tower extending from the station's surface. Almost there, she whispered to herself. Then her fighter was hit. A Council plasma bolt struck her right engine. Alarm screamed in her cockpit as the engine exploded. Her fighter began spinning out of control. Hana, Daejin's voice came through her headset. You're hit! Eject! She fought the controls, trying to stabilize. Her hands moved quickly, shutting down the damaged engine, rerouting power. The spinning stopped. She was still flying, but barely. Her fighter was dying around her. She looked at the shield generator. She was close. So close. No eject, Captain, she said calmly. I'm finishing this. That's an order, pilot. Sorry, sir. Can't hear you. Communications must be damaged. She switched off her receiver, cutting off Daejin's voice. She had 1 engine left. Her fighter was on fire. Half her systems were offline, but she could still reach the target. Hana pushed her throttle to maximum. The fighter accelerated, flames trailing behind it. Council guns fired at her, but she didn't try to dodge anymore. She just flew straight, focusing everything on that shield generator. In her last moments, she thought about Earth. The Earth she had never seen except in holograms. Blue skies, green grass, real sunlight, not the artificial lights of a colony ship. She thought about all the humans who had died 3,000 years ago, who never got to fight back. "This is for all of you," she whispered. Her fighter struck the shield generator at full speed. The explosion was nuclear bright, visible from the planet below. The entire tower collapsed, and the Grand Assembly's shields flickered and died. "Shields down," Dejin shouted. "All ships, fire on the station!" "Everything you have." The human fleet opened up with every weapon. Without shields, the Grand Assembly was vulnerable. Massive sections of the station exploded. Hull plates tore away. Entire modules broke off and drifted into space. But the battle was far from over. The Council fleet, despite losing their command carrier, was still fighting hard. Human ships continued to die. The colony ship Bright Future took a direct hit to its reactor and exploded, taking 15,000 people with it. Commander Nam Hyejin and her soldiers had a different mission. While the space battle raged, they launched assault pods toward the Grand Assembly. Their goal was to breach the station and capture any council representatives who hadn't escaped yet. The pods crashed through the station's damaged hull. Nam and her battalion of genetically enhanced soldiers poured into the corridors. They met heavy resistance immediately. Council security forces, well-armed and desperate, fought back fiercely. "Push forward," Nam shouted, firing her plasma rifle. "Don't let them escape!" The fighting was brutal. Close quarters, no room for fancy tactics. Just soldiers killing each other in narrow corridors. Nam's enhanced strength gave her an advantage, but the Council soldiers were brave and determined. Bodies piled up on both sides. Colonel Ryu Taehyung fought beside Nam, his armor scorched black from plasma hits. "We need to reach the Council chambers." "That's where they'll be." They fought their way deeper into the station. Every corridor was a battle. Every intersection a killing zone. But slowly, step by bloody step, they advanced. On the eternal dawn, Dr. Song Yoonji worked frantically in the medical bay. Wounded soldiers arrived in waves, carried by their comrades or crawling in on their own. Burns, blast injuries, radiation poisoning, decompression trauma. She moved from patient to patient, doing what she could, but there were too many. "Far too many. I need more medical staff," she shouted. "I can't save them all." A young soldier died on the operating table despite her best efforts. She slammed her fist on the table in frustration, then immediately moved to the next patient. There was no time for grief. No time for anything except work. Outside, Engineer Baek Minho had his own mission. He was floating in space using a thruster pack to approach the Grand Assembly's docking bay. The doors were sealed shut, preventing Commander Nam's reinforcements from entering. Beck had volunteered to manually override the doors. It meant getting inside the station's maintenance tunnels, finding the control systems, and opening the doors. It also meant he probably wouldn't make it out alive. He squeezed through a waste disposal port, his suit barely fitting. Inside, he moved through dark, narrow tunnels, following a mental map of the station's layout. Council engineers had never imagined someone would be crazy enough to try this. He found the control room after 20 minutes of crawling. Guards were stationed outside. Beck pulled a small weapon and shot them both before they could react. He rushed inside and began working on the controls. Alarms sounded. More guards would be coming. He worked faster, his fingers flying across the alien computer systems. Come on," he muttered. The guards arrived, firing through the door. Beck felt something hot punch through his side. He looked down and saw blood spreading across his suit. He had been shot, but he was almost done. Just a few more seconds, the guards entered the room. Beck finished the override and hit the final command. Throughout the Grand Assembly, docking bay doors opened. Human reinforcements poured in. A guard fired again. This shot hit Beck in the chest. He fell, feeling cold spreading through his body. As his vision faded, he smiled. He had done it. His mission was complete. The battle raged for 6 more hours. The Grand Assembly was torn apart section by section. Commander Nam's forces reached the council chambers and captured 12 council representatives who had failed to escape. The council fleet, seeing their sacred station destroyed, finally began to retreat. When the fighting ended, the Grand Assembly was a broken wreck. Thousands of humans had died, but they had won. Captain Dejin stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn looking at the destruction. They had struck at the heart of the council and torn it out. But the cost had been terrible. "Count our losses," he ordered quietly. The numbers came in slowly. 3 colony ships survived. 2 were destroyed. Of 400 million humans, 70 million had died in the battle. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting at the Grand Assembly, their massive space station that orbited the capital world. Representatives from all 12 member races gathered in the Great Chamber, their voices echoing off the high walls. "These ghost raids must stop," shouted a Scythe commander, his reptilian scales dark with anger. "We've lost 17 supply convoys in 2 months. Our mining colonies are terrified. Workers refuse to go to their posts." A tall, insect-like representative from the Weave spoke more calmly. "We need to understand what we're dealing with. These attacks are too coordinated, too precise. This isn't random piracy." An aquatic deep-born representative floating in a water-filled tube added, "Our intelligence suggests these might be the humans we terminated 3,000 years ago." The chamber erupted in noise. Some representatives laughed. Others looked worried. "Impossible," said a crystalline Luminar delegate, their body reflecting light in rainbow patterns. "We bombarded Earth completely. Nothing could have survived." "Some were off-world when the attack happened," the Deepborn said. "Colony ships. Research stations. They could have survived." The Scythe commander slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Then we finish what we started. We hunt them down and eliminate them completely this time." But not all agreed. The Luminar, Deepborn, and Weave representatives had voted against destroying Earth 3,000 years ago. They had been outvoted by the other 9 races, forced to watch as Earth burned. Now they looked at each other with concern. Back in human space, Ambassador Tak Seong-min proposed something controversial. He was a diplomat, someone who believed in talking before fighting. He stood before Admiral Choi and the other fleet commanders with a bold idea. "Let me make contact with the Council," Tak said. "Let me try to negotiate. Maybe we can end this without more bloodshed." Vice Admiral Shin Bora laughed harshly. She commanded the Iron Testament, the most powerful warship in the human fleet. "Negotiate? They destroyed our world. They killed billions of our people. And killing billions of theirs makes us what?" Tak asked quietly. "Better than them? Or exactly like them?" The room fell silent. Dr. Kang spoke up. "He has a point. If we just want revenge, then we're no better than the Council. We should at least try to talk." Admiral Choi considered this carefully. He was old and had seen much suffering. Part of him wanted to see the Council burn. But another part remembered what humanity had been before Earth's destruction. A species that valued life, that tried diplomacy first. "Very well," Choi said finally. "Ambassador Tak, you may make contact. But I don't trust them. This may be a trap." "Then I'll walk into it with my eyes open," Tak replied. He wasn't the only one who disagreed with the current strategy. Kwan Youngji, a young communications officer, spent her time analyzing old Council transmissions. She was brilliant with languages and codes. One night she discovered something important. She found Daejin in the observation deck. "Captain, I need to show you something." She pulled up old files on a portable screen. "I've been decoding Council communications from 3,000 years ago, from the time Earth was destroyed. Look at the voting records." Daejin studied the information. His eyes widened. 3 races voted against it. The Luminar, Deepborn, and Weave. They didn't want to destroy Earth. "Exactly," Youngji said. "Not all of them are our enemies. Some tried to stop it. This information should have mattered, should have changed things. But events were moving too fast." Ambassador Tak made contact with the Council. They agreed to meet at a neutral station to discuss terms. Tak took a small delegation, including several diplomats and guards. They traveled in an unarmed ship, showing peaceful intent. Admiral Choi watched them go with a heavy feeling in his chest. "I hope I'm wrong about this," he said to Daejin. He wasn't wrong. The Council had no intention of negotiating. When Tak's ship docked at the neutral station, they were immediately surrounded by armed soldiers. The Council had decided that humanity needed to be taught a lesson. They couldn't allow anyone to think that challenging the Council was acceptable. Ambassador Tak and his entire delegation were arrested. They were given no trial, no chance to speak. Within hours they were executed, and the executions were broadcast across all Council space. The message was clear. This is what happens to those who defy us. When the human fleet received the transmission, rage swept through every ship. Soldiers shouted for blood. Pilots begged for permission to attack. Even those who had supported diplomacy felt fury burning in their chests. Dr. Kang watched the execution on her screen and broke down crying. She had supported Tak's mission, had believed peace was possible. Now those beliefs felt foolish and naive. Vice Admiral Shin didn't wait for orders. She took the Iron Testament and 4 support ships and jumped to the coordinates of a Council military academy. When they arrived, she gave one command: fire everything. The academy was destroyed in minutes. Thousands of young alien cadets died, most of them barely adults. They weren't soldiers yet, just students learning to serve their species. But Shin didn't care. She saw them as future Council warriors, future threats. Better to eliminate them now. When Admiral Choi learned what Shin had done, he was furious. He called her back to the flagship immediately. "You attacked without orders," Choi shouted. "You killed students' children." "I killed future enemies," Shin replied coldly. "They would have grown up to kill humans. I prevented that. You've made us look like monsters." "We are monsters, Admiral. We were made into monsters when they burned our world. You want to pretend we're still civilized? That we're still the old humanity? We're not. We're what they created. We're their nightmare come to life." Choi stared at her for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. "You're relieved of command. Return to your quarters. You'll face military court when this is over." Shin left without arguing, her face showing no regret. The attack on the academy divided the human fleet. Some supported Shin, believing the Council deserved no mercy. Others were horrified, fearing humanity was losing its soul. Arguments broke out on every ship. Friendships ended. Some soldiers refused to follow certain commanders. Captain Daijin found himself caught in the middle. He understood both sides. The Council had committed genocide against humanity. They had shown no mercy, no compassion. Why should humans be better? But he also remembered the memorial hall on the Eternal Dawn. Remembered the images of Earth before the fire. Remembered what humanity had been. If they abandoned all morality, all restraint, then what were they fighting for? Just revenge? Just death? He discussed this with Dr. Kang late one night. "I don't know what's right anymore," Kang admitted. "I wanted justice. But watching people die, even Council people, makes me sick. Yet when I remember Earth burning, I want them all dead." "I'm torn in half, we all are," Daijin said. "But we have to choose who we want to be. The Council made us into refugees, into survivors. But do we let them make us into killers? Into the very thing they claimed we were?" Before they could discuss further, Admiral Choi's voice came through the ship's communication system. Every human on every ship heard his words. "This is Admiral Choi Junho. Ambassador Tak died trying to make peace." The Council answered with execution. "They've shown us who they are. They will never stop. They will never change. They will hunt us forever if we let them. So we won't let them. We're going to strike at the heart of the Council. We're going to attack the Grand Assembly itself. This isn't a raid. This is war. All ships prepare for battle. We leave in 72 hours. The fleet erupted in activity. Every engineer worked non-stop. Every weapon was checked and double-checked. Pilots ran simulations endlessly. Soldiers sharpened their skills. Yunhana volunteered for the most dangerous mission, flying a bomb-laden fighter into the Grand Assembly's shield generator. It was essentially suicide. She would likely die. When Daijin tried to talk her out of it, she smiled sadly. "They took everything from us, Captain. Our world, our future. Ambassador Tak's life. Someone has to make them pay the price. Might as well be me. You're too valuable to waste on a suicide mission. I'm not being wasted. I'm being used for exactly what I'm worth. Besides, someone has to do it. Everyone on this fleet knows they might die. At least let me choose how." Daijin couldn't argue with that logic. He just gripped her shoulder and nodded. The 72 hours passed quickly. The human fleet, all 5 great colony ships and hundreds of support vessels, jumped into quantum displacement. When they emerged, they would be at the Grand Assembly. They would either win everything or lose everything. There was no middle ground anymore. The human fleet moved through space like ghosts. Park Sun-ho's quantum displacement drives made them nearly impossible to detect. The ships could appear, strike, and vanish before anyone knew what happened. It was technology humanity had developed over 3,000 years of desperate survival, mixing human creativity with stolen alien designs. Captain Daijin stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, studying a holographic map. Their target was Talvex Prime, a mining colony on the edge of Council space. It was controlled by the Scythe Dominion, one of the 12 founding members of the Council. The reptilian Scythe were known for their military strength and their cruelty. "The colony has minimal defenses," Li Jiwu reported. She was the fleet's best intelligence officer, small and quiet but deadly smart. Most of their security forces are dealing with worker strikes. They're not expecting an attack. Good, Dejin said. We'll hit fast and take what we need. Weapons, supplies, and information. Beside him, Yoon Hana checked her flight suit. My squadron is ready. We'll deploy the spy satellites while you handle the ground mission. Dejin looked at her. Hana was talented but reckless. She took risks that made him nervous. Stay focused out there. No unnecessary risks, Hana grinned. Necessary is a matter of opinion, Captain. Before Dejin could respond, Admiral Choi's voice came through the communication system. All teams, you are cleared for operation. Make them bleed. The Eternal Dawn dropped out of quantum displacement near Talvex Prime. Immediately, Hana's squadron of 12 small fighters launched, streaking toward the asteroid field that surrounded the colony. The fighters were painted black and equipped with stealth technology. In space, they were almost invisible. Hana flew through the asteroids with practiced ease. Behind her, other pilots struggled to keep up. She laughed as she spun her fighter between two massive rocks, enjoying the rush. Ghost Squadron, spread out and deploy satellites. Let's give the fleet some eyes. One by one, the fighters released small spy satellites. The devices drifted into position, beginning to record everything happening in the colony. Communications, ship movements, security patterns, all of it would be sent back to the fleet. Satellite deployment complete, Hana reported.
Heading back to... Wait. I've got 3 patrol ships incoming.
Dejin's voice crackled through her headset. Avoid contact. Do not engage. But the patrol ships had already spotted Ghost Squadron. Weapons powered up. Hana made a split-second decision. All fighters, evasive action. Break and scatter. The patrol ships opened fire. Energy blasts lit up the darkness. One human fighter exploded immediately, killing the pilot. Hana cursed and pulled her fighter into a tight spiral, narrowly avoiding incoming fire. I said, do not engage. Dejin's voice was sharp with anger. Too late for that, Captain. Hana fired her weapons, her shots striking one patrol ship's engine. It spun out of control, crashing into an asteroid. The other 2 patrol ships turned toward her, both firing at once. Hana's training took over. She flew between asteroids, using them as cover, making the patrol ships chase her. One of them flew too close to a spinning rock and was clipped, its hull tearing open. The 3rd patrol ship was hit by one of Hana's wingmen and exploded. Area clear, Hana reported, breathing hard. Returning to the Eternal Dawn now. When she landed, Dejin was waiting for her. His face was cold with fury. You directly disobeyed orders. I kept my squadron alive, Hana shot back. Those patrol ships would have reported us. Now they can't. And we lost a pilot. Hana's confidence faded. She looked down. I know. I'm sorry. Dejin took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. War requires discipline, Hana. Remember that. He turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone on the flight deck. While Hana had been dealing with patrol ships, Lee Jiwoo had infiltrated Talvex Prime itself. She wore stolen worker clothing and kept her head down as she moved through the colony's corridors. The place was dark and dirty, full of alien workers mining valuable minerals. Guards walked past, but none looked at her closely. She reached the colony's central data center and slipped inside. Her fingers moved quickly across a computer terminal, bypassing security codes she'd spent months learning. Information poured onto her screen. Supply routes, military deployments, communication codes. Then she found something that made her freeze. A file marked Historical Threat Assessment Species Termination Reports. She opened it and began reading. Her hands started shaking. The file contained records of the Council's decision to destroy Earth. But that wasn't all. There were dozens of other species listed, hundreds. Each one labeled as preemptively terminated or contained through population reduction. The Council had been doing this for thousands of years, destroying any species they thought might become too powerful. Earth wasn't special. Humanity wasn't uniquely violent or aggressive. The Council simply eliminated any competition. Jiwoo downloaded everything and fled the data center. She made it back to her hidden ship and returned to the fleet with the stolen information. When Admiral Choi and Dr. Kang reviewed what Jiwoo had found, the command room fell silent. They've been doing this for millennia, Kang said, her voice hollow, destroying entire civilizations. And no one knows. The Council has hidden it all. Admiral Choi's face was like stone. Then we're not just fighting for revenge. We're fighting to stop them from doing this to others. Over the next 3 months, humanity launched raid after raid. Park Sun-ho's quantum drives let them strike anywhere, anytime. They would appear near a council convoy, destroy it, steal supplies, and vanish before reinforcements arrived. Alien crews began calling these attacks ghost raids, terrified of the invisible human ships. Commander Nam Hyejin led ground forces in these raids. She and her soldiers were genetically enhanced, stronger and faster than normal humans. They had been bred specifically for combat. Nam was ruthless and efficient, showing no mercy to council forces. During one raid on a weapons depot, Nam's battalion killed 200 alien soldiers and stole enough plasma weapons to arm 3 ships. When some of her soldiers questioned whether they should take prisoners, Nam was clear. They didn't take prisoners when they burned Earth. We don't take prisoners now. But not everyone agreed with this approach. Dr. Kang grew increasingly uncomfortable with the violence. She had wanted justice, yes, but watching the raids made her question what they were becoming. "We're better than this," she told Daejin one night. "We're supposed to be better than them." Daejin looked tired. "Maybe we were once. But 3,000 years of survival changed us. We became what we needed to become. And what's that?" "Survivors," he said simply. At any cost, the raids continued. More council ships disappeared. More outposts went dark. Panic began spreading through council space. Their military scrambled to respond, but how do you fight an enemy you cannot see? How do you defend everything at once? In the council chambers, the 12-member races argued frantically about what to do. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted total war. They were divided, confused, afraid. Humanity had been gone for 3,000 years. Now they were back, and they were nothing like the council remembered. They were harder, colder, and far more dangerous. Lee Jiwoo's intelligence reports kept coming in, each one revealing more about council operations. Park Sun-ho's drives kept improving, making the fleet even harder to track. Commander Nam's soldiers became legends of terror, spoken about in whispers by frightened alien troops. And Captain Han Daejin, standing on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watched it all unfold. They were winning these small battles. But the real war hadn't started yet. That would come soon. Admiral Choi had promised. Captain Han Daejin walked through the memorial hall slowly. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Around him, holographic images floated in the air, showing Earth as it once was. Blue oceans, green forests, cities full of light and life. Then the images changed, showing fire raining from the sky. He had seen these recordings 1,000 times, but they still made his chest tight. The Galactic Council had done this. 12 alien races working together had decided humanity was too dangerous to exist. They said humans were too aggressive, too violent, too quick to expand across space. So they burned Earth, every city, every town, every village. 7 billion people died in 3 days. The few humans who survived were those living on colony ships, far from home when the attack came. That was 3,000 years ago. Daejin was born on a ship, as was his father, and his father's father, going back 70 generations. No human alive had ever touched Earth's soil. They only had stories and these cold holographic memories. "Captain, Admiral Choi is calling for you." The voice came from his communication device. Daejin touched the device and spoke. "I'm coming now." He left the memorial hall and walked through the corridors of the Eternal Dawn. The ship was massive, almost like a small city floating in space. 20,000 people lived here. It was one of 5 great colony ships that held what remained of humanity. Altogether, only 400 million humans still lived. Once there had been billions. When Daejin reached the command center, he found Dr. Kang Mirai already there. She was staring at a large screen with bright eyes. Kang was the ship's chief scientist and historian. She spent most of her time in the archives protecting old human books, music, and art. She looked excited now, which was unusual. "Daejin, look at this," she said before he could even greet her. Admiral Choi Jun-ho stood beside the screen. He was an old man, nearly 80 years old, but his eyes were sharp and clear. "One of our long-range drones just returned from Earth," the Admiral said. "The results are unexpected." The screen showed images of Earth taken from orbit. Daejin felt his heart skip. The planet was still brown and gray in many places, poisoned by the bombardment. But there were patches of green. Plants were growing again. The oceans were less cloudy than in old images. The atmosphere is recovering, Kang said quickly. After 3,000 years, Earth is finally healing. In maybe 100 years, humans could live there again. Daejin stared at the images. For his entire life, Earth had been a dead world, a tomb. Now it was coming back to life. This changes everything, he said quietly. Admiral Choi nodded. I've called for a council meeting. All 5 colony fleets will gather. We must decide what this means for humanity. 2 weeks later, the 5 great colony ships met in deep space. Daejin attended the council meeting with Admiral Choi and Dr. Kang. Representatives from all 5 fleets filled the room, appearing as holograms since they couldn't all fit on one ship. Admiral Choi spoke first. Earth lives. For 3,000 years, we've been wanderers living on these ships, surviving on whatever resources we could find. Now we have a choice. We can return home. A woman from another fleet spoke up. Return to what? A poisoned world. It will be 100 years before it's safe. We've waited 3,000 years, another man said. We can wait 100 more. But Dr. Kang stood and held up her hand. There is something else we must discuss. I've been studying council transmissions for years. They think we're extinct. They believe they killed all of humanity 3,000 years ago. They've grown comfortable, soft. Their military forces are spread thin across their territory, dealing with small conflicts and trade disputes. The room went quiet. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. Admiral Choi spoke carefully. The council destroyed our world. They killed our ancestors. They tried to erase us from existence. Now we have the chance to return to Earth, yes. But what about justice? What about making them pay for what they did? A heated argument began. Some people said humanity should focus on survival and rebuilding. Others said the council needed to face punishment. Voices rose and fell for hours. Finally, Yoon Hana spoke. She was young, only 25, but she was the best pilot in the fleet. I've only seen Earth in holograms, she said. I've never felt real wind or touched real grass. The council took that from me, from all of us. If we just go back to Earth and hide, we're telling them it was okay to do what they did. We're saying human lives don't matter, Dr. Kang added. The council has probably done this to other species too. If we don't stop them, they'll do it again. When the vote came, it was not close. 4 fleets voted for war. Only 1 voted against. Admiral Choi addressed everyone. Then it is decided. We will not simply return to Earth. We will strike at the Galactic Council. We will make them remember that humanity does not die easily. We will show them that trying to erase us was their greatest mistake. The meeting ended. As people left, Daejin stood with Dr. Kang looking at the image of Earth on a nearby screen. Do you think we can win? Kang asked quietly. We're 400 million people with old ships and limited weapons. They have billions of soldiers and advanced technology. Daejin was quiet for a moment. 3,000 years ago, the council thought they'd won. They thought they'd ended humanity with fire and death. But here we are. We survived. We adapted. We learned. We became harder, stronger, more determined. They don't know what's coming for them. He turned to face her. We have something they don't have. We have nothing left to lose. A person with nothing to lose is the most dangerous thing in the universe. Later that night, Daejin stood alone in the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn. Through the thick window, he could see stars stretching in every direction. Somewhere out there was the Galactic Council, living comfortably in their empire, believing humanity was just a footnote in history. They would learn the truth soon enough. Daejin placed his hand on the cold window. For Earth, he whispered. For everyone we lost, we're coming. The 5 colony fleets slowly turned, their massive engines burning bright. They set course away from Earth, toward the heart of Council space. The long wait was over. Humanity's revenge had begun.